friends, Greg Koukl here, and we are going to do something really special on this show today. In fact, I'm going to do something I have never, ever done before, and I will never, ever do again. I'm going to start here by, you hear the chuckle in the background because I have a guest. I'll introduce him in just a moment. I'm going to start here by breaking a rule. And my rule is I don't use the word excited. Why not? I don't like that word. Why not? Because I think it's way overused. It's overused by pastors. It's overused by Christian communicators. I mean, it's just kind of dull. Nobody believes it because it's just so overused. But I am going to use it today, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm pretty excited, actually. 33 years ago, on May 1st, 1993, so we're about a month past our anniversary, I began to run a race that, it's called Stand to Reason. And I had a simple goal, and that was to train Christians to think more carefully about their convictions and then to engage others with their careful thoughts, and to do so persuasively and to do so graciously, but also to do so truthfully. And now, more than 3 decades later, we got 20 people on our team. We got speakers and a website and content and conferences and training that are second to none. And we have had an impact on millions of people all over the world. And I just got to tell you, when I look back on it, I don't know, it's like surreal to me. It's so far beyond anything that I ever imagined. But I know that I can't keep running this race forever. Tomorrow, June 10th, I turn 76. And people say, well, you're only as old as you feel. And I tell them, well, that's not good news in my case. No, I'm doing okay, but I've been in the harness for a long time, and I'm not quite getting out of the harness right now, but we are in a position, I am, to begin passing the baton to my Joshua, as it were, if you think of Moses. And this is why on May 1st this year, the Stand to Reason Board unanimously has chosen our chief apologist and longtime friend and confidant and colleague, Alan Shlemon, as president-elect of Stand to Reason. And Alan's with me here today. And first of all, congratulations, Alan.
Thank you, Greg. I'm humbled by this. And I appreciate your vote of confidence in me, as well as from the board, of course, as well. But I'm also excited, to use your word.
Yeah.
I'm also a little bit nervous about that.
Sure. That's good.
That's fine. I'm okay with feeling a little bit nervous. But I really think that what you started 33 years ago, you used to call it Christianity Worth Thinking About, right?
We still use that handle.
No, right, of course. And I think today and tomorrow, more than ever, that's what is needed. And STR is going to be needed to help people think through their own convictions and to be able to share them, like you said, persuasively and graciously.
Yeah.
So, and I just think about the landscape that's before us and how important STR is going to be in helping believers navigate that landscape.
Yeah, and there's part of me always wants to work myself out of a job, but I don't mean just like I'm doing now. I mean like Stand to Reason out of a job. But we won't be out of a job until Jesus returns, right, and gives us relief because of the challenges that the body of Christ has faced for thousands of years, and faithful people have been passing the baton ever since the beginning. Jesus passed it to the disciples, Paul passed it to Timothy, faithful men passed it to others who will be able to teach others also, etc. 2 Timothy 2:2. And of course, you're not a newcomer to Stand to Reason. You've been around a long time. We'll talk a little bit about that. But I realize a lot of folks may not really know you. Know, for example, that I actually personally started discipling you before you were even on Stand to Reason more than 20 years ago.
Right.
So we go way, way back. And by the way, this is important for me to let people know because we didn't just pluck Alan off a tree. He's been in our garden, my garden, for a long, long, long time, and not even thinking about, Alan, what what became your role at Stand to Reason, and now what is becoming your singular role as a successor to me at Stand to Reason. My heart was to do what I could do those many, many years ago to invest myself in you and help you to grow and. I hate to say it this way, it sounds like a commercial, but be all you could be. Well, how does Paul put it? Present every man complete in Christ,
right.
And particularly make my contribution in this particular area of Christian thinking and persuasion and the like. And but you have been on our team quite a while. We'll talk about that. You understand our mission, our vision. You were there when we formulated these things, and I just want everybody to know the most important thing about that to me about Alan is not only there's all these requirements that really have to be in place for anybody to follow in this particular kind of role, but the tremendous sense of safety that I feel with you, that I can deliver the responsibilities and the relationships on the team and outside of the team in our larger community to somebody that I have complete trust in, that has the sense of gravity of the responsibility and the capability of meeting that challenge. So we talked about Stand to Reason DNA, and you might want to say more about that in a bit, but just there's nobody on the team that gets us more than you do. And folks, sometimes I talk to people who say, we'd like to work for you. And that's great, and I'm flattered, but we don't take new people on very easily because of this issue, the Stand to Reason DNA.
Right.
They don't really get the unique kind of organization we are. And I guess every organization is unique in a certain way. They have their own personality, they have their own culture, as it were. But this is a kind of thing that you can't just sign up for. It's something you absorb over time. And the fact that you've been with us for a long time and me watching you and be in relationship with you, I've been able to see that Stand to Reason DNA flourish in you and watch you protect it all over the years as well. So blah, blah, blah. I've been talking and talking and talking. I want, imagine that, huh?
Yeah. That's what you do best.
Yeah. When I'd like to just have a chat with you now a little bit.
Yeah.
Not just for those who don't know you at all, which I just assume everybody knows who you are, but you've been on the show a few times, and I think you might have said in for me before, but for the most part, you're doing your thing with Stand to Reason, your number of responsibilities as a speaker and as a writer for us. So let me start here. I'm curious about what was your very first exposure or awareness of Stand to Reason?
The first exposure was when you came and spoke at a church that I was attending and serving in the college ministry in Rolling Hills Covenant Church here in Los Angeles. Actually, she was my fiance at the time, Jennifer. We were volunteering in the college ministry. The pastor there, the college pastor, had invited you to come and speak to the college group.
Yeah.
And you came and spoke there, and my fiance and I looked at each other and thought to ourselves, wow, okay, this is exactly the kind of thing that we have ourselves longed for to learn, but also to try to pass on to the church. And part of the reason why we said that was because both of our testimonies were similar in the sense that we grew up in the church, sort of fell away from our faith and our convictions, but then through apologetics, we're brought back to a recommitment to our faith in Christ. And so when we finally heard you speak and kind of you were a person who embodied both sort of a rigorous intellectual life, but with just also a passionate love for Jesus, and that kind of that combination of those two things, we're like, wow, that's exactly what we want to be a part of.
Yeah.
So you spoke at the church. I don't know that we had any conversation at the time, but I just know that Jennifer and I looked at each other and said, man, once we get married and come back from our honeymoon, we gotta get involved in what
first things first.
Yeah, let's take care of business first. When we come back, we really want to support this ministry. We want to be involved in some way. We didn't know how. Okay, but yeah, so we got married, and then it was 1998. Now we're married. We came back, and I think I called the office because we wanted to start supporting Stand to Reason financially. So I remember calling, and I think I just got a voicemail, and I just left a voicemail. I said, hey, my name's Alan. We heard Greg speak at our church. We loved it. We want to support you guys financially. So let us know how we can do that. And yeah, we just want to promote what you're doing and make it happen more, right? So I hung up, and then I think that later that evening, you called back. Personal phone call from Greg Koukl, and I'm like, what? I can't believe this is Greg.
Well, you said those magic words. We
want to support your money. Yeah, that's right. Actually, the funny thing is, the first thing you said was, "Hey, Alan, this is Greg Koukl, and we're happy to receive your money. Yeah, we'll gladly take it." Like that was the first thing off the top of your head.
Well, I call other people who are not donors, so just so folks know.
Yeah.
But we were a younger organization. Actually, at that time, we were just 4 years old or something and counting, and so I was able to be in much more direct contact with people who are showing an interest in Stand to Reason.
Right.
So I said, yeah, we're here.
Yeah,
and,
you said you're here. We'll happily take your money. And so, of course, we decided to start supporting STR at that point. But then also in that phone call, you said, hey, why don't you just come to our staff meeting? We have I forgot when it was Wednesdays maybe, I think at the time, because I'd expressed some interest in helping support STR in other ways. So I remember showing up at the, I think it was a staff meeting, or I can't remember, but my wife and I both showed up. Steve Wagner also soon came after that.
Right.
And so we began volunteering almost immediately.
Scott Klusendorf was on board at the time, probably.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right, yes.
Yeah.
So we just started volunteering for Stand to Reason at that point, just, making copies of cassette tapes.
Cassettes,
right? Yeah,
right.
Cassette tape, yeah. Peeling stickers off old cassette tapes, putting on new stickers. Answering phone calls. All the people complaining about controversial things you had said that they didn't like about, never hearing the voice of God and blah, blah, blah. So, we just did whatever we could to help further the mission of Stand to Reason. It was because we had a deeply held belief that what Stand to Reason was doing was in line with our own mission and passion. Yeah. And that's why we wanted to support it.
You're such a great example of what I say frequently, and I imagine you do too when people ask the question, as they often do, how could we do what you do, kind of thing, and a lot of folks don't realize the price that's involved with that over the years of developing the craft and whatever. But the first thing I always tell them is bloom where you're planted.
Right.
And that's what you were doing there. You that was an opportunity you had that was consistent with your interests, and so you started helping us out right away. So what happened next?
Well, So we started to do more events with you in the sense of going to events, running the product table, so on and so forth. And then at some point, and I can't remember exactly when, but it was soon, you started doing, you held a discipleship group for a number of us. Sean McDowell, myself, Todd, Steve Wagner, Amy, a bunch of other people. Yeah. And we would come to your house. I can't remember if it was every other week or what.
Yeah, something like that. But we met on Wednesday night or whatever it was, and then we spent time. And that was a year-long relationship.
Right.
And which was great. I'd had other groups in the past. I've had others since then. But you were such a hungry young man spiritually, especially regarding the things that we do, and it just was a great fit. And so Sean was there too, and I was in my MA Phil program. That's how I happened to know Sean. And so wasn't there someone else? I'm just thinking, who is an MA
Todd.
Phil? Oh yeah, Todd. Okay, so you were part of that group for a year, and this would be before well, you weren't doing anything for Santa Teresa for volunteering.
Right. We were just volunteering, supporting. I was a physical therapist. So I was working in East LA at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking so often, I felt gifted in speaking and teaching because I'd done some of that work as a physical therapist. And then I had done some teaching just in small groups at my church and just kind of here and there. And I always remember saying, and I don't know if I said it out loud to you, but at least I told my wife, I said, I feel like a power tool being used as a paperweight. In terms of, I felt like I had these giftings to be able to teach in knowledge and apologetics, but I couldn't use them. And so, you would just kept encouraging me to sort of bloom where you're planted. I don't think you said it that way at the time, but and then what happened was there was a few instances where you had a scheduling conflict, where I think there was like you were booked to speak at an event. Melinda had another opportunity for you to speak somewhere else, but at the same time, and then you guys offered me an opportunity to take one of those teaching times.
Okay.
So I did that, and it went okay. And then
you survived. They survived.
Yeah. And then that happened a few more times. And I think that's when maybe the kind of clicked in your guys' mind, like, hey, maybe Alan is somebody that
place here for you,
we could, use as a speaker.
Right around this time, I got married too, and there's a little kind of interesting thing there in terms of, I think, correct my memory, because it's I just had my 28th anniversary, and yours must have been right around about 28th wedding anniversary, right?
Right.
So we've known each other almost 30 years, but
right.
I think you found out I was getting married, and you and Jen sent a gift, right?
Yes. Well, this is before now. Now we're going back to 1998.
Okay.
So this is right after we just began volunteering.
Right.
We
That's
heard you
right.
getting married. We sent you a gift.
And
that prompted you to invite us to your wedding.
Yes, that's right. And what was really cool is, so they sent the gift. So they thought, well, let's invite them to the wedding. And then when they came to the wedding, they brought another gift, which is really, really great.
Very strategic. That should have been included in your tactics book.
But things as things developed, it just reminds me of Jesus' comment: "You're faithful in smaller things, you get bigger things too." And that's
right.
That was so true of you, Alan. You were so faithful to do whatever we asked you to do, even if it was menial chores, so to speak, as a volunteer, going to events and manning the table and doing things. And it was back in the cassette tape days, and
right.
Anything that was required. You were such a servant in your heart, and such an eager student to be exposed to whatever you could be exposed to in this circumstance, apologetics. And then it was great because then we saw these qualities in you, and I actually don't even remember how we turned the corner there. Do you recall those details?
Well, I think Kurt Swindoll was helping consult for us.
That's right, Chuck's son.
Yes. And then so he and Melinda met with me for dinner one point and sort of proposed, what do you think about joining Stand to Reason? And at the time, I was thinking this would be my dream job, to work for STR. So it was, I think they were thinking, there's no way Alan's going to turn this down.
Yeah.
I think this is around 2003. But I did turn it down, which is crazy. And the reason is because I'm making a public confession here. I think I had a lot of pride in the fact that I had barely made it into physical therapy school, which is
You were proud of that? Barely making it?
Well, what I mean was a physical therapy school was incredibly competitive at the time. It might still be.
It's a very hard course of study too. I know that.
And my wife actually was also got accepted to the same program, but she was the first student selected because she had the best GPA. I had the worst GPA of the people who got accepted. So I kind of made it in. And I mean, it was an incredibly difficult program, but I made it through. I did my internships. I got this great job at LA County USC Medical Center. I was super proud of like all that I had accomplished. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, STR's offered me to work with them, but it requires me to raise my own support for my own salary. And I've already done all this work in physical therapy. And now I'm like, I think at this point I had moved to a different hospital. I was the manager at the department of at the physical therapy department there. And so I kind of I think I just had a little bit of pride that I couldn't let go of. So
Like that was a little beneath you, given what you'd accomplished.
yeah, like
in the
I'm
services.
going to now expect the church to provide for me for my salary when I've worked this hard to provide for myself.
Yeah.
It was not a healthy thinking. I'm just confessing that right here. But
Okay.
but I'll tell you, I said, I don't think this is going to work for me. And then a year transpired, and then you guys came back to me and said,
What
"Are
did-
you out of your mind? Like, like you're made for us, we're made for you. Like, let's make this work
Yeah.
somehow,
Yeah.
And so finally, I said, "Yeah, you're right. This is this is ridiculous." So, I committed at that point. I think in 2004 is when I started to raise support and started to wean off of my work as a physical therapist.
22 years ago. I've been 22 years. So
Yeah.
this is significant to me because, and I know since then you have developed so much as a communicator. In fact, you are busier than I am. You get more requests, and you have a lot of things that you have developed an expertise in. We're both kind of generalists,
Right.
but you've done a deeper dive in a number of things that are what might be called hot topics, and so consequently, people are they want you to speak for their conference or for their church or their retreat or whatever. But it's not just that; it's the way you communicate it and what you know, and in the stand to reason tradition,
Yeah.
knowledge, wisdom, character,
Yeah.
the ambassador model, and that's made you very, very popular. We'll talk about some of the crazy experiences you've had over the years that I think gives you the kind of depth and breadth that commends you well to this position to be able to lead the organization in the next season. Now you mentioned Jen, your wife Jennifer, and tell us a little bit more about your family, very briefly.
Yeah, so I have 2 kids, 1 wife. I have a son who's 21 and a daughter who's 19. And my
Close to the age of my own children,
Yeah,
because I
that's
remember
right.
we go on Alaska cruises
that's
when
right.
they were all little kids.
they're all kids, basically same ages as your
Yeah,
kids,
yeah.
But my wife, when she was pregnant with our first child, Nathan, and she eventually gave birth, and she decided she wanted to homeschool. So she left her career as a physical therapist, wanted to be a full-time mom, and then eventually a homeschooling mom. So we homeschooled both of our kids for virtually most of their education. And they both went to Summit and did the Summit Gap Year program.
Sure.
Of course, we were really close to Summit, as
Right.
probably a lot of people know. And anyway, so now they're back and they're working and
Sure.
as they do. And then my wife, after she completed homeschooling, took on a job at a classical private Christian school as a Latin teacher.
Oh.
Yeah. So as a homeschool mom, she had to learn Latin to teach Latin.
Right.
And but she ended up becoming more than just some mom who kind of knows a little bit of Latin. She became sort of like the community expert in Latin. So everybody came to her with questions, and so that forced her to learn it more.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I guess, well enough to get a job
Yeah.
as a Latin teacher, which is incredible.
So
That's what she does.
And you live in North County, San Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here in Southern California, when what I'm interested a little bit in is your own testimony. I know you're kind of raised in a Christian family. I mean, I know your parents, your mom's gone now, but and know a little bit about that. But bring our listeners up to speed a little bit on that whole process.
Yeah, my family is from a small Christian minority from Iraq, known as Assyrians. So my parents, my brother, all my relatives, uncles, aunts were all born mostly in Baghdad.
The Assyrians are really nasty people, as I recall from the Bible.
Yeah. If you've read any parts of the Old Testament, you'll probably recall the Assyrians are talked a lot about there.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we were the bad guys. So, when you're the sworn enemies of Israel, you end up being the sworn enemies of God.
Yeah, that's true. But see, now you're one of the good guys.
Yeah, look at that.
Wasn't
Yeah.
it unusual, though, for your family to be? Did they live in Iraq? Mm-hmm. And were you born in Iraq? I'm trying to remember.
No,
I know you went to England for a while. But go ahead.
They fled in the late 60s after my brother was born. My brother was born in Iraq.
Okay.
They fled to the States, and then after they settled here in the States. I was born in Chicago. Not from where you were born.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's where I was born. Yeah,
I know. Yeah. I remember seeing you there as a little baby.
Yeah, well, Chicago's a great city. Well, I missed that one. It took me a second for that to sink in.
It's okay.
Chicago's a great place to be from.
It is. Yes.
You know,
And
especially
to visit every once in a
nowadays.
while.
Yeah, on occasion. But so I didn't know that about you. But I know your dad's a architect or engineer or something.
He was a structural engineer.
Structural engineer. He's got some major credits to his name.
Yeah.
In Bahrain or someplace like that. Big, giant, unbelievable buildings.
Yeah, his specialty was high-rise buildings.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, and then, tell me about the spiritual development then for you.
Yeah, so I was going to say that because my parents belonged to a small Christian minority, they were Christian, and so they, of course, raised my brother and I as Christians. And I don't say this to fault them, but they didn't teach me Christianity in the way that, say, I would teach my kids now, in terms of helping them develop a robust worldview, helping them to inoculate to the false ideas of the world. So although I was a Christian, I was baptized probably, I think it was junior high around. I was, witnessing door to door soon after that. I mean, I was certainly passionate about my faith. We eventually moved to England for about 4 years because my dad's company moved us there. And it was my high school years there where I began to start asking questions. Do I really believe what I believe because of my own personal conviction?
Right.
Or is it just because my parents are Christians and that's
Right.
why, And at the same time, we didn't get really plugged into a real solid church at the time in England, so I wasn't really being fed a lot. And also just the general challenges of being in a secular school and being, challenged with your peers to participate in things you shouldn't be participating in.
Right.
All that just kind of came together, and it caused me eventually to just walk away from my faith. I mean, people were even asking me flatly, how do you even know Jesus existed? Like, you believe in Jesus? You don't even know that he existed. And what's your evidence for that? I mean, now I think about it, these were very basic questions. But at the time, I had no grounding to answer those kinds of questions. So by the time I finished high school, I had walked away from my faith. We eventually moved back to the States. We moved to California. I started attending Cal State University in Long Beach to study physical therapy. And I ended up befriending a professor of anatomy at that university who was a Christian. And he invited me to do research with him, like after school hours. So I was working on neural regeneration in his lab, and we would sit there for hours. And he, of course, we'd have conversations, and he discovered, I used to be a Christian. And so he started asking me, well, why aren't you a Christian anymore? I said, because there's no reason to be one. And he said, well, what if I introduce you to some reasons? I said, I mean, sure, go ahead.
Wonderful Columbo style question.
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, there aren't any, but go ahead. Like, give it your best shot. So he gave me a book called Scaling the Secular City.
Oh, my goodness.
By J.P. Moreland.
J.P. Moreland.
And he was actually friends with J.P. Moreland, so he introduced me to J.P. Moreland by taking me to an event of J.P.'s.
I did not know this.
Yeah, so he said, let's just read.
Scaling was a great book, by the way.
Yeah.
It was ahead of its time because there weren't many books around at that time when JP wrote Scaling.
Right.
And it's a great title, too. And it deals with a lot of the basic things.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah. So we decided to read the book together and discuss it. And so after about 6 months of reading that book and going to some of JP's presentations, I was blown away. I was like, wait a minute. I have never heard of apologetics, never heard of any of these kinds of arguments. I didn't realize there was evidence for Christianity. And I remember one day standing outside of this professor's office, waiting to go in for office hours to ask questions about, anatomy and whatever, but as well as the fact that we would often talk about spiritual matters as well. And I remember thinking to myself, all right, whatever happens when I go into this room, I am not going to recommit my life to Christ. I just want to ask him some more questions. But I really, at that point, was convinced Christianity is true, but I just didn't want to submit to that. So anyways, long story short, I go in for his office hours. It's my turn. We started conversing, and by the end of that meeting, I was praying to recommit my life to Christ.
Oh, my gosh.
And so that whole process, that whole journey caused me to say, why was I never equipped and trained or exposed to apologetics ever in my upbringing. And again, I'm not trying to fault my parents, but the churches that I belonged to at the time, the Christians that I knew, I never was exposed to it.
Yeah.
And so it became a passion of mine to say, man, how can we bring more exposure of apologetics to the church, to the rank and file? And so that's why when I met you at Rolling Hills Covenant Church in 1997, it was like, wow, this is exactly what I think the church needs, and which is why it was so easy for me to align my thinking, my passion, my mission with what STR was doing, because it just seemed like a perfect alignment there.
Yeah. And what was the year when this took place? So you mentioned 97, but this conversion, was that a couple years before, this recommitment, this one thing you vowed never to do?
Yeah, it was probably, I'd have to double check, but it's probably around like 1992 or 3.
Yeah. Just before we started STR.
Yeah, it's probably 1992.
Because we started 93.
Yeah.
But it's just been a whole process. And it's when I think about my own life and Stand to Reason, and I don't know that we've talked about this before, but my suspicion is you see a place where you have arrived at, or that you are at now in the process of a journey, maybe is a better way of putting it, and you never had any ambition to be at this spot.
Right.
Maybe a broad ambition like I did to be useful, make my gifts available, and then you find yourself in a spot like that along the way, and you for my sake, I would say I'm stunned, amazed, overwhelmed by the sovereignty of God working all these details out. And this isn't really, many people have heard me talk about the whole hearing from God thing, and my concern is about that whole movement is learning to hear the voice of God, et cetera, it's a textual one. It's a biblical one.
Right.
This is just not taught the way people are characterizing it in the Bible. Actually, something else is going on entirely, and these verses are being pressed into service for a mistaken message. But the other thing, one of the other things, though, is that we don't need to have the Holy Spirit whispering in our ear, as it were, in order for God to get the work done, to get his job done. And our lives in Stand to Reason is a testimony to that. Now, I'm not just basing my theological views on my own experience. I'm saying they're based on text, but that works itself out in experience, and we can see God's sovereign hand. And I know there are many, many times where you said, I'm not ever going anywhere else. I'm so happy here. This is my dream job. And we've had a number of people that were on our team that eventually moved on to their own enterprises. J. Warner Wallace, Brett Koukl, Scott Klusendorf, Stephen, and that's great. I don't want to lose any of them, really,
sure.
But because they were such tremendous talents. But
Right.
it was great to see how God took them the next step in his sovereign way as he's working through them. So, but with you, I knew I don't have to worry about Alan. He's happy here, and he didn't want to start his own enterprise, And so this is another irony, it seems to me. I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but another irony, because it isn't as if you had ambitions for this particular job that
Right.
you're now being groomed for and moving into over the next year or so.
Yeah, that's true. I never had any ambition, and really even up until the last 5 years, I never thought this was even a consideration. But I knew that it didn't matter. I came to realize I had certain giftings in knowledge and teaching, and I knew I could use those gifts in several possible ways.
Yeah.
But to Stand to Reason using those gifts and to serve the church and the kingdom of God in this way is a perfect alignment, and I would have been content doing that. But of course, I also I think the only ambition I really had, and if ambition is the right word, is to ensure that whoever takes over STR afterwards continues to maintain and protect the DNA and the vision and mission of STR more than anything.
Yeah.
And so that's probably what caused me to think about, well, you know what? Maybe this is something that I need to step into.
Yeah, well, when we approached you with it, actually the first couple times we talked about it, it was clear that this isn't, you were happy where you're at.
Right.
You had no ambitions for this. And I actually am glad for that because people who want authority, sometimes that's leads to bad places, and the people who are itching for control or leadership. That's not always true, obviously.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But and in my case, I wasn't itching for that. It's just what happened in the process of me being faithful, and God added more and more to that, and more people, and then this became this much bigger thing than I ever anticipated. But I think the same thing is true of you. And as time went on, then I remember distinctly, when really getting to a point of seriously talking about this, because you said 5 years ago, before 5 years ago, this would not have even been on your radar. And I think that's when I started getting senile, like 71 or thereabouts. And you said, well, I don't know how long. This guy's...
Maybe we should make a change here.
So, but I remember you telling me, and what you said is, you need to know, Greg, that I am not campaigning for this job. Now, there are other people on the team, because everybody on this team really loves you, Al, and you know this, and that's important, I think, for everybody listening who considers himself part of our community, an organic part of Stand to Reason, that not only was our board unanimous in this decision, but our team was unanimous.
Yeah.
And we didn't poll the team, but I just know everybody was rooting for you almost too much behind the scenes and whatever.
It was a little uncomfortable at points.
Yeah. And so you made a point of telling me, because you function like an older brother to them. You're the senior apologist. You've been around for longer than I think just about anybody, even Amy. I don't know. Amy maybe came a couple of years after you did. Not much longer after, but
yeah,
you were
I think
part of
she
that.
started, well, I was certainly volunteering with STR before she came.
Yeah, and she was in that discipleship group.
Yeah, I think she started working soon after I did.
Yeah.
Or around at the same time.
But in any event,
Yeah.
I mean, being around, and then your natural leadership ability, where you began just as an older brother, that's the way they saw you, just took care of things. You took care of things for me too, and you still are. And I could just count on you for that. And you had a kind of paternalistic attitude about the group. Not overbearing, obviously, but I'm going to take care of my friends, and that to me is a very important quality. So when we talked, and given that all of these things were kind of coming together, it just made so much sense to us. And then I talked with you about more specific ways about taking on this role. You said, you need to know, especially with the banter from the team, we're going rah, rah, rah,
Right,
Alan,
yeah.
right? Which embarrassed you a little bit, made you uncomfortable, and I completely understand that. But it was sweet that, in one sense, it was very sweet that they were on your side so much. But you said, you need to know that I'm not campaigning for this. I'm not looking for this. I'm happy where I'm at. It's all right.
Right, yeah.
Don't listen to them.
Yeah.
Okay? But you said, if you, Greg, think it's good for Stand to Reason that I succeed you at your post, I'd be willing to do it. And in my view, Al, that's the perfect attitude. Is the perfect attitude. And that kind of sealed everything for me, coming together. And of course, the whole process took some time, administratively and whatever, but to bring us to this point now. And part of the reason I'm talking this way is because I want others to see kind of the inside workings, to have the confidence that Stand to Reason is being delivered into good hands. And younger hands. Alan was born the year I became a Christian. That's how I keep track of how old he is.
Yeah.
And so was Amy, too. So you guys are the same age. But it was such a significant issue for me that I not leave my kids as orphans, But I wasn't, and I mentioned this with the board when we were talking about transition. I'm not leaving. if I can't leave and feel that I am delivering these people I love so much on our team, and also the broader community, into the hands of somebody fully capable and having the same filial sense about the family and the same paternalistic commitment and everything. And so all of that really was coming together with you. So this is really great.
Well, just to say, it's a tremendous encouragement to me that you have that belief in me and the confidence that you can, like you said, pass this on to somebody who you can trust. So it means the world to me. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I've had 22 years experience there. That's on Stand to Reason.
Yeah.
We were together in a discipleship relationship even before that, the group that you mentioned with Sean and Amy, et cetera. So we got about 20 minutes left, and what I thought might be good to do here, after we've had kind of this personal glimpse, is let's talk a little bit about some of the areas that you have developed an expertise in, and these are the content things that you bring to the table, as it were. So this is really a different element. That it's one thing to be able to be dad, so to speak, for the team, and protect the team and protect the organization. But you're actually writing 2 books right now. You're on contract with, is it Harvest House?
Yeah, the one I'm in contract with currently is with Harvest House.
Yeah.
And
And then you have another one that you've been talking with Zondervan about. And
so I don't know. Yeah, I haven't decided when and with who I'll sign with that. But I want to. But now that this whole president-elect thing has come up, I'll probably hold off on just a little bit of time before I sign any other deals. But I want to finish this first book with Harvest House first.
And this book is on, I think, gender identity, right?
It's on transgenderism, yeah.
Okay.
So it'll probably be called The Transgender Dilemma. In fact, Harvest House and I were recently chatting about the topic. I'm sorry, the title. But that's what it's going to be over. Yeah.
How is it that you kind of migrated to this whole area? This is one of the areas where you've done a really deep dive in, and you've written a number of missives that people can find on our website that go out. I have one actually right here. It says "Alive son or dead daughter?" ? And that just was recent.
Yeah,
maybe we'll talk about it. But this is the kind of charge and challenge that the kind of leftist transgender movement is foisting upon parents who are troubled about this transgender ideation and everything. So, but how did that? There is, I think, in terms of the broad ideology and politics of it, there's a kinship with that in the whole gay movement and the LGBT thing. And is that how you? And what is the genesis of that in terms of your interests?
Yeah, that's precisely how it happened. When I think back to my work as a physical therapist working in East LA, at that time, getting married to my wife, both her and I were having a lot of friends and family relationships with people who identify as gay and lesbian. And so at the time, this was a very big deal, right? It was like the pro-LGBT movement, but really mostly focused on homosexuality, was becoming a big deal. And there was a lot of questions about, well, how do you navigate conversations and relationships with friends and family who identify as gay or lesbian?
Right.
And one of the things that I had to learn was how to do that myself, because I was, at work, I had friends, mentors, people coming to my house who identified as gay and lesbian. And in those relationships, you're naturally having to ask yourself, well, how do I handle this? What if they ask me this? I was invited to this and that, and, they came over to my house and wanted to do this. Like, what do you say?
Sure.
So over the years, my wife and I began to develop, principles that were helping us to navigate those situations. And so I sort of started to move into that space to speak and to write on the subject of homosexuality and how to sort of navigate those relationships, in addition to the apologetics of the topic as well.
So you're working through all of these things in real time with real relationships.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Which is really true of so much of what we do at SCR. I think people realize we're not in the ivory tower.
Right.
We're down here, in the streets, boots on the ground, and engaging the people and working through how to do so in a noble way that honors Christ. I was talking with somebody else about effectiveness, And you know this just as part of Stand to Reason. Our effectiveness is not really measured by our results. It's my responsibility as an apologist or a witness for Christ or whatever is to communicate the truth graciously, truthfully, accurately, and as persuasively as possible. And if I do that, I've done my job.
You're being faithful.
I'm being faithful. You know, our audience of one, we often talk about that as part of our DNA. And people sometimes respond good or maybe respond bad. That's not the measure of our effectiveness, but rather the faithfulness that we bring to the table.
Yeah. So that topic is really what got me involved in the sexuality sort of conversation. So I wrote a ton and spoke a ton on that. Eventually, as you know, culture shifted, and eventually transgender ideology became a bigger deal.
Yeah.
It was sort of a natural, transition, pardon the pun, to move into that space and start speaking about, writing about, and thinking about transgender ideology, and then also asking the same questions. How do you navigate conversations and relationships with friends and family who identify as transgender or non-binary or whatever? So that's what got me into it. And then, so that's why homosexuality and transgender ideology are two topics that I've focused on for.
So you have a two-pronged aspect to this that really applies to all of these things.
Truth and compassion?
Yeah, truth and compassion, right.
Yeah. So my talk titles have been homosexuality, truth and compassion, or transgender ideology, truth and compassion.
Yeah.
And it's because, I think it really models after the way Jesus, comported himself, right? Full of grace and full of truth is the way the Gospel of John describes Jesus.
Right.
And so I want to help equip believers how to bring the truth into a conversation or into a relationship with someone who identifies as LGBT, but also how can we have a compassionate engagement? How can we lovingly engage these people with the truth? And part of this is to combat the false dichotomy that's often presented as the only two options, which people who don't hold to our convictions, like progressive Christians or just non-Christians, they'll say, well, you either are going to love this LGBT person, which means you affirm their homosexual desires and their behavior and their transgender ideology, so and so, or you don't affirm that and then you hate them and reject them, So, but you can't keep your biblical convictions if you're going to, affirm their transgender ideology. So there's this idea that you have to either love them and compromise your convictions, or stick with your biblical faith and reject them and hate them. And I was always bothered by that because I'm like, no, those aren't the only two options. There's a third option. And the third option is, yes, you can, I know you don't like this word, lean into your relationship with your friend or family member who's LGBT and maintain your biblical convictions. Like, don't compromise your faith. Now, is that going to be more complicated and more messy? Oh, yeah, for sure. But it seems to be the way the Bible, talks about how we relate to people, right?
Yeah.
And so that sort of third way or third option really can apply both to the subject of homosexuality as well as transgender ideology.
So there's all of those areas that are very just right up to date with the cultural trends right now in conversations and stumbling blocks for Christians dealing with culture. But then there's another area that an incredibly deep dive in that's just as kind of controversial and I think appropriate for you because you're Middle Eastern.
Oh, yeah.
So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I remember actually at one point, Stand to Reason, we were kind of thinking, well, who can be someone who can sort of focus in on the subject of Islam? 9/11 had happened, and so, we're kind of wondering about that. So, you're right. Everybody's like, well, Alan, you're from the Middle East. You're the one most likely to kind of understand this sort of culture.
Aaron looks like the terrorist, so he got the job.
Yeah, so I actually did some advanced studies at Biola on Islam in the middle of my MA when I was studying at my Apologetics program there.
Right.
And so I focused a lot on Islam, and I've been going to the Middle East for years, working with Egyptian Christians there. I take Christians to mosques here in the United States, and we engage the imams and other Muslims at the mosque. And this has just been not only a lot of fun, but Well, I should say, not only has it been good kingdom work, but it's been a lot of fun.
Okay, yeah. You got the cart before the horse.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Right.
And part of the reason is because Muslims are this huge demographic of people who are perfectly comfortable talking about religious matters.
Yeah, they love talking about it.
Yeah. You
Right.
walk up to an average American in the mall and ask them to talk about Jesus, they're going to think you're a creep. Get lost, You go up to a Muslim, I mean, literally, it could be a stranger and say, and I've done this, hey, would you be open to talking about God and the Bible and Jesus? And they're like, sure,
Yeah.
And,
Well, you actually wrote a booklet that we offer at Stand to Reason. We have a series of ambassadors' guides of different types, and one of them is on Islam.
Yeah.
And there are two things that stick out for me when I think of that. I'm looking at the clock here. We just got about 8 more minutes, but the one is there in that book. There's a fabulous argument that we can't go into it now. We don't have time, but that has to do with the issue of authority.
Mm-hmm.
That really is effective to stop Muslims in their tracks and to get them thinking. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the argument that our friend Abdu Murray, former Muslim and now Christian. I can't remember the name of his organization.
Embrace the Truth.
Embrace the Truth.
Yeah.
There you go. He just couldn't shake this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it has to do with leveraging what the Quran says about the Bible.
That's right.
Against the charge that the Bible has been corrupted.
That's
so
right.
That's in that booklet. There's another anecdote about that book, that little green booklet that says An Ambassador's Guide to Islam.
Right.
Do you remember the little quirky thing that happened with that green book and the title?
Oh, you mean how it got sold or promoted at the mosque?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a few years ago. We got a call here at the office, and someone had said, hey, is there a guy there named Alan Shlemon? And they're like, well, yeah, he works here. They're like, well, we want to know, like, who is this guy? Because, he's a Muslim, but he just seems to be making really bizarre arguments in favor of Islam. And so we're like, wait, no, Alan's not a Muslim. Anyways, long story short, we found out that a mosque here in Southern California had purchased a whole bunch of these books called The Ambassador Guides to Islam, because if you look at the cover and you don't really open the book, it kind of looks like a book that might be pro-Islam.
Yeah, clickbait.
But I mean, that was not our intention. I mean,
Right.
I'm thinking about who's the one who designed the cover. It wasn't me, but whoever did, like, it just looks like it's written in an Islamic or an Arabic font.
Yeah.
But it's just the Ambassador's Guide to Islam, and it's about, being an ambassador for Jesus to Muslims.
Yeah.
So this,
And it contains this argument in it too.
Right. Yeah. So this mosque had purchased a whole bunch of them and was passing them out at like some outreach event.
Go figure.
And so some non-Muslim, non-Christian person, I think, had gone to the mosque event, picked up the book, read it, and thought, how is this pro-Islam? It's rebutting Islam.
Yeah.
And so that's why he had called the office.
Yeah.
And found out,
In the Jesus movement, we would call that MBTL. Must be the Lord,
That's right.
One of those kinds of things. Now, in addition to that, you've studied at the Discovery Institute in Seattle.
Oh, yeah.
There are special courses on intelligent design and
Yeah, that was a 2-week intensive. Yeah.
That's right. But that was just supplementing your own study up at that time. Amy has done it as well. I think Katie and our team is doing something with them. And Amy is going to be down in Oxford with Stephen Meyer, not Oxford, but Cambridge later in the summer with more things. But it's just, you got your master's degree in apologetics, and then we do encourage everybody in this regard. We want you to keep moving forward. And so we try to find budget to make it possible for our speakers to do these deep dives, take the time,
Right.
fly out, spend the time, take the courses, whatever it happens to be, and the bioethics is another area you've done a lot of work with. Didn't you do a thing at university somewhere where you just said it was basically I'm the pro-lifer, I'll take on all comers type thing? What was that?
Yeah, there was a few of those actually. It was well, I've done it at USC Medical School.
Yeah, that's
where
right.
there was a pro-life Christian at the school, in medical school there. And she invited me to come and speak there. And the school said, as long as Alan's willing to debate the entire medical school, will allow them to speak on pro-life. So I got I think they gave me 15 or 20 minutes to make a defense for the pro-life position.
Yeah.
And then I had to accept any challenge taken from any of the med students.
Right.
So I've done that there, but I've also at Central Michigan University, I did a similar thing. Another secular university where it's sort of like, you get 20 minutes to make your case, and then you got to debate anybody who's willing to debate you kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, Al, we could talk and talk and talk, and I think I'm glad to showcase you a little bit to those especially who don't know you at all, and to those who know you but don't know all of these things. In fact, I learned a few new things here, and I'm actually convinced that STR's most fruitful years are ahead of us. I'm so grateful that you're on this journey with us and continue in a new capacity, and that the rest of the listeners in our community are on board with us too. Nothing's changing about Standard. And by the way, I'm not hanging up my cleats right away. I can't wait to get my gold watch and my, my pen set and then say sayonara. No, I'm going to be continuing on in the life of this organization for a while. I'll be slowing down. Your metaphor of passing the baton, I think, was so helpful because the one runner slows down, the baton is passed, and then the other runner speeds up, and that's what's happening here. And I've been so grateful to serve alongside with you for all of these years, and I'll be a counselor, in a certain sense. So you'll be my boss at some point in the future.
Won't that be fun?
Yes, right. But Alan has been a great colleague, a good friend, and a faithful disciple for all of these years, and it is exciting. To pass the baton now to Alan, and to, as this next year or so in transition, somebody asked me, how long is it going to be? And I said, well, it's bigger than the lunchbox and smaller than a refrigerator, or however that saying goes. We're still working on that. What's best for the organization?
Yeah, sure.
That's what I want. That's what you want. And so that's the way it's going to work out. But stay with us, folks, and I'm still going to be doing the show for a long time, I'm sure, and even though I'll be working for Alan as the transition continues. But STR's in good hands now, and it will continue to be in good hands as God does new things through us. So thank you for listening, friends. Greg Koukl here, and Alan Shlemon for Stand the Reason. Give them heaven, friends. Bye-bye now.